24% crit chance, 3.0 critical multiplier, and a fire rate of 12.5. That to me sounds like a good proposition. Hey guys, hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Leyzar, and today we're gonna be diving deeper into the Aksomati. With a mastery lockout of 9, these things sure can pack one serious critical punch. Please keep in mind that my builds and guides usually take a more new player-friendly approach, simply because there's a lot of information here that most of the time simply gets skipped over, and I feel that I should cover it. So if you're a veteran of the game, please bear with me. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into the Aksomati. Let's take a look how these weapon handles without any sorts of mods equipped. Now I'm about 20 to 25 meters away from my target and I'm gonna start spraying, and as you can see, the accuracy is not exactly all that hot. It hits a lot of bullets outside of my crosshair, so there is that to take into account. Another thing which I want you guys to notice is that it doesn't start off at full fire rate. It's got a bit of a spool up to it. Pretty much like the Soma, because essentially these pistols are the Soma condensed down into pistol version. But let's jump into stats and see what we're dealing with. First of all, the mod capacity is 60 out of 60, and if yours has only 30 out of 30, jump into actions and install an Orokin Catalyst. This one can be found from alerts, invasion, or if you're lucky, from the daily sortie. More often than not, I'm forced into paying 20 plat for it, and that's a bit of a bummer. In any case, my weapon has been formatted a total of 6 times, but for the weapon build I'm recommending you guys, 5 should be sufficient. I only did 6 because I have a Riven, and I also wanted to do a fair bit of testing as well. Accuracy is 15.4, and as you saw, they're not extremely accurate. Critical chance is 24%, which is outstanding, and the critical multiplier by default 3.0. And this is where the Aksomati shines. This is a 100% crit weapon. Fire rate 12.5, which is pretty good, but again, this fire rate is with the spool up already finished, kinda. Magazine capacity is nice at 70, noise alarming, reload 1.4, which is quite nice considering the mag capacity of 70, and the Riven disposition is 4 out of 5, which means that the Rivens for this weapon will be fairly powerful. Status chance, unfortunately, only 8%, and this is where the Aksomati suffers. That status chance, if it was at least 10%, it would have been so much better. By default, it deals impact, puncture, and slash damage, with slash being the highest. Now I'm gonna tell you right now, I tried everything I could to make this into a slash weapon with viral. It simply doesn't pan out all that well. Now let's slap on some mods, and the first thing we should always do is go for flat damage. Hornet Strike is the mandatory mod when it comes to pistols, and that is 220% extra damage. This is not your only option. Something like Auger Pack can work as well. That's only 90% extra damage. You have the added benefit of the set bonus, but by all means you shouldn't base your decision on the set bonus alone. Now Auger Pack is a pretty decent mod, but we're gonna talk about this one just a tad later. Now with our damage applied, why don't we go for a bit of multi-shot, which is pretty much on par with damage when it comes to, let's say, importance. In some cases, multi-shot can be even more important than flat damage. Barrel Diffusion is the standard mod for multi-shot on pistols, and it will add 120% extra. However, we're not gonna stop there. We're also gonna be adding Lethal Torrent. Now, Lethal Torrent will add 60% multi-shot, which is awesome, but it also adds 60% fire rate. On some pistols, that fire rate is not necessary, and in some cases it can also be detrimental. However, in the case of the Aksomati, it reduces that spool up time greatly, which makes the weapon a bit less annoying to use, at least for me. And of course, more fire rate means faster kill, so therefore more DPS, so definitely pick up Lethal Torrent. If you don't have this one, you can get it from alerts usually, but if not, pay 10 plat, maybe 15 on a max from the trade chat. Now that we got our multi-shot and damage, what we should be doing is further amplifying that crit chance and crit damage. The standard crit chance mod for pistols is called Pistol Gambit, and if you guys have prime versions of any of the mods that I recommend, then by all means use your prime versions, though that probably will require to forma an additional time or two. 120% extra crit chance puts us at 52.8 base crit chance. Now we got a lot of crit chance. What we should do is further amplify the crit damage. It's pointless to have a high crit chance if you don't make use of the star of the show, which again is the critical multiplier. The standard version of Target Cracker will add 60% critical damage, and from my point of view, this one is just a tad underpowered. 70% would have been ideal. If you guys got Prime Target Cracker, however, that will be a huge DPS increase for the Aksomati. Fully maxed out, this one will give you 110 opposed to the standard version, which is 60. But for the sake of presentation, we're gonna go like this. We got crit chance and we got crit damage. Now you can further amplify the crit chance with one of my favorite pistol mods, Hydraulic Crosshairs. Now this one, on headshot, plus 135% crit chance while aiming for 9 seconds. Now, it does add more crit chance than Pistol Gambit, however, is only on a headshot. But we fire so many bullets so fast, this one should be up at all times. Again, it's not hard to get a headshot with the Aksomati, with that amount of bullets and that high fire rate. So if you're Mr. Pro, I'm not Mr. Pro, but if you're Mr. Pro, you can use Hydraulic Crosshairs from the start instead of Pistol Gambit if you so desire, or you can use both of them. Unfortunately, in testing, this one simply did not prove as much DPS, but we're gonna talk just a little bit later about that. Now that we got our damage, crit chance, crit damage, and multi-shot, we should be looking towards getting elemental damage. And once again, elemental damage should be applied depending on where you're going and who you're fighting. If you're going up against the infested, flat out heat will be more than enough to deal with them. If you're fighting the corpus, magnetic damage will nuke down their shields. However, my recommendation would be to build gas, as it bypasses their shields entirely and deals damage to their health. We're going to be taking the example of the Grenier, heavily armored targets, and against them we want to build corrosive. Now corrosive is the combination of electricity and toxin. And when adding elemental damage to a weapon, you have two options, either the 90 mods, which will add more damage, or the 60-60 mods, which will add less damage, but it also gives you a fair chunk of status chance. Now in testing, I was fully expecting the 90 mods to prove more reliable and better DPS because, well, it's a crit weapon and the status chance is not really all that high. And they did prove a bit more efficient, but not by a huge margin. So we're going to be using Convulsion to get our electricity. As for our toxin, we're going to be using pathogen rounds. Now we got our corrosive 287, so it's the highest out of all the damage types on the weapon now. As for our last mod, this is what I like to call an option slot. If you guys want more mag capacity for some reason, even though I believe that 70 is more than enough, you can use something like Ice Storm. 40% magazine capacity, 40% cold, 5 to 10 plat from the trade chat in case you don't have it. Now, more realistically speaking, again, I don't think you need the mag capacity, but it's gonna come down up to you. You can use something like Auger Pack. Now, Auger Pack is a fairly balanced choice to have. 90% extra damage will buff absolutely everything, and of course you have the added bonus of the set there. However, there's one more additional option. Hydraulic Crosshairs. We talked about this one just a little bit earlier. I absolutely love this mod. 145% crit chance while aiming for 9 seconds. And if you do not have this mod, you can get it from the trade chat for a maximum of 10 plat. This is one solid option, especially considering that the Aksomati is a crit weapon. But this still didn't prove the best in testing. My recommendation to you guys would be to further amplify your elemental combo against your specific targets. In our case, it's corrosive, and if I want to further amplify that corrosive, I either need to add more electricity or more toxin. And for the sake of using the cheaper option, we're going to be using Pistol Pestilence. 60% toxin, which will wash into my corrosive combo that we made earlier with Convulsion and Pathogen rounds, and 60% status chance. Now again, the base status chance is the weak point of the Aksomati, but we did manage to buff it up to 31.9. That is because of all the multi-shot and the status chance for Pistol Pestilence. And this will be the base build I'm recommending to you guys. Now let's test it out and see what exactly it can do. Let's kill off whatever remnants I had here. We're going to be spawning in level 115 Corrupted Heavy Gunner. Please keep in mind that Corrupted units have more health and armor than regular units, and we're simply gonna go to town. And as you can see, the Aksomati can definitely shred through these targets in about 60 bullets. Normally it takes about 60 bullets, as you can see there. You can get better results like 50 sometimes, but a consistent amount will be somewhere around 60. Even though our status chance is not that high, 31 point something %, it still applies corrosion to the targets, which means we are dealing more damage. Now, going overboard with status chance and corrosion against Grenier can be a bad idea, as I outlined in my Mara Detron video. But in our case, we're safe from that, so we're not going to be stripping away all the armor from these targets, but we are going to be doing a whole lot more damage to them because of that corrosion. Pretty powerful weapon, I gotta say. For a mastery rank 9 weapon, these things sure pack one serious punch. Now we're gonna be switching up to my Riven setup. I did manage to get a Riven from a friend. I traded him, I think, a Despair Riven, which was rolled quite nicely. This one will give you multi-shot 190%, 321% damage, and it has a negative of status duration. Now an ideal negative for a weapon such as this one would be minus zoom, and I would have loved to have a Riven with crit chance, crit damage. For something like this, that would have been completely awesome. But I rolled it 60 something times and I don't want to see any more Kuva Harvesters or I will go insane. In any case, I did slot it in the Riven instead of the 6060 mod, and I'm also using Prime Target Cracker, one from the top instead of the normal version. And now we're going to be testing against the exact same targets to see what kind of differences we can get. We're going to be simulating the exact same set and we're going to be going to town. As you saw before, it took like 50, 60, even 70 bullets to kill off a target. Now with a full clip, I can kill 2 targets. So as per the usual, Rivens do make quite the difference. When it comes to Rivens for the Aksomati, I know you're thinking about what would be the ideal Riven. From my point of view, it would be something like crit chance, crit damage, and or multi-shot up in there with a negative of zoom. Yeah, negative zoom would be really awesome for a weapon such as this one. Yes, it does make quite the difference. It is a whole lot more efficient. Aksomati Rivens right now, however, are fairly rare. I simply couldn't find a whole lot of them. Thankfully, my buddy hooked me up. Now, as I gotten you guys used to... Ooh, the rain is starting. Wow. Just a second. Now, as I gotten you guys used to, we're not gonna stop here. We're gonna push it even further. We're gonna be picking up Lady Mirage, and we're gonna be using the following buffs. First of all, an aura. Pistol amp will increase our damage to pistols by 27%. This is an aura, so it will affect all your party members, and it is stackable. If you don't have it, from the trade chat, 10, 15 plat on a max. As for arcanes, we're gonna be using a nice synergy combo between Awakening and Velocity. Now, Awakening, 40% chance on reload for plus 100 damage to pistols for 16 seconds. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. This one is not entirely reliable, and I don't necessarily recommend you picking it up unless you have a sidearm or a pair of pistols that reload all the time. However, it synergizes beautifully with Arcane Velocity. On critical hit, 60% chance for plus 80% fire rate to pistols for 6 seconds, and of course the usual plus 1 Arcane Revive. So one makes you fire faster, a lot faster, so you're gonna be reloading all the time, and the other one gives you a damage buff on reload, and these two are quite the pair. So we're going to be going up against the exact same targets with the new buff. So we're going to activate Mirage's third ability. That's 418% extra damage with my build, and of course the clones as well. And as you can see, we are able to tear through these targets like there's no tomorrow. Not a lot of content in Warframe requires this level of firepower, but after all, there's no kill like overkill. And it's always nice to have. What? Other than that, as for my final thoughts on the Aksomati, these are remarkable sidearms, and I cannot wait to see the prime versions for these things. Maybe a bit more status chance, maybe a bit more crit chance as well, 30% crit, 50% status chance, please, so it can be OP. That would be wonderful, and maybe the removal of that pesky spool up as well. But that's gonna do it for this build guide. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, favorite, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you got any feedback for me or would like to request specific weapon reviews, I give you my word, I will read each and every comment. But until next time, guys, of course you wouldn't wave. Bye, guys. See you next time.